Donnie and Dolly. The team is supported by ableauctions.ca. Closing your business? We can help.
All of today's guests, including Farhan, standing by, brought to you by the Vancouver Canadians. C's homestand against Tri-City continues tonight. This weekend features a fireworks night, Nooner, Marvel Superhero Day, and a White Spot Family Fun Sunday. 872-5232, CanadiansBaseball.com. You know what? I said that all calendars start Monday to Sunday, and they don't. In my mind's eye, it was always Monday to Sunday, but calendars, Sunday to Saturday. I go by feel, though. Yeah. The week starts on Monday.
But for me, too. My end of the week is Sunday. I don't care what anyone says.
Absolutely. Start
It's not Friday.
Monday.
It's not Friday. It's Sunday.
Feel it. You have to feel it.
It's in the vibes. My vibes say Sunday. Bottom line.
We're getting some good vibes right now. Farhan Lalji, TSN. Thanks for doing this, sir. How are you?
I'm good. If a calendar goes Monday to Sunday, that totally throws me off. And for me, the weekend starts Friday. Like Friday is probably a bigger deal than Sunday. So my weekend's Thursday when I'm on with you guys.
There you go. There you go. But this was more about the beginning of the week, which for me is Monday. And for some reason, Ryan thought it was Sunday. But apparently so do a whole lot of other people.
No, the week does start Monday. But if the calendar shows that way, I'm totally thrown off.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. I agree. Lions, let's start here before we get to Evander Kane. But the Lions are 1-2. They now have 3 straight road games, starting Saturday in Saskatchewan, Montreal just a week later. It's going to be tough. First of all, let's start here. Nathan Rourke, what can you tell us about him? Does he get the start in Saskatchewan?
My gut tells me he will start. I don't know for sure. And I'm going right to the Lions practice after this, so I hope to know a lot more after that. And he did a little bit more yesterday, right? So he was still splitting first-team reps with Jeremiah Masoli, and there were a couple of pass attempts where he did try to push the ball down the field, whereas the previous day, everything was within about 15 yards of the line of scrimmage. So you'd have to believe that today he can elevate a little bit and push it a little bit more, maybe take a few more of the first-team reps. Practice is a little bit shorter, and then tomorrow's just a travel day and a walkthrough. But my gut says that he's going to be cleared and ready to play on Saturday. And, Saskatchewan's got probably a bigger question mark in Trevor Harris, right? Because he's been dealing with a head injury and illness, hasn't practiced at all this week. I'm waiting to see what happens there. But I think the chances of Nathan Rourke playing Saturday are greater than Trevor Harris playing Saturday. So we'll see how that plays out.
What was your opinion of Jeremiah Masoli's performance against Winnipeg at home last week?
Okay, he was able to move the ball down the field. They were able to pick up some first downs, but in the areas where it mattered.
Okay, we've lost Farhan's audio here, so we'll try to reconnect with him and go from there. But again, it's the BC Lions in Saskatchewan. I mentioned Saskatchewan 3-0, Montreal 3-0. Saskatchewan, Montreal back-to-back. Then they play in Edmonton before returning home to play the Elks.
Yeah, they got a tough schedule. On the road, 3 in a row in the CFL. Boy, Donnie, that's tough. There's no question about it.
Okay. How are we doing with Farhan? Still waiting on him? All right. We'll reconnect with Farhan. Again, Farhan believing that Nathan Rourke, who's
they need him, Donnie.
Shown some steady progress, will at least see some action initially against Saskatchewan, but he makes the point about the Riders having injury issues as well, starting with their quarterback, Trevor Harris.
Trevor Harris, he's not 100% as well, so there's going to be 2 QBs on the weekend. Donnie, not 100%.
Okay. And the other thing we want to talk to Farhan about, of course, is about Evander Kane and Abbotsford Calder Cup celebration, and just the fact that they won the Calder Cup. We got Farhan now? Okay. Farhan, you back? You got you?
Yeah, not sure what happened there. I guess my AirPods must have died. I got to charge these more.
All right.
Sorry, guys.
No problem. It happens in our business. Where were we? Jeremiah Masoli, I believe.
Yeah, I thought his performance was okay. He's a veteran. He was able to move the ball in most situations, but when they needed plays in the red zone, he couldn't get it done, and you just can't turn the ball over that many times. They gave up 20 points off turnovers. I thought the defense actually played a lot better in that game than they did the previous week. There were a couple of drives that Winnipeg was able to generate in that game. The rest of it was all generated off turnovers. So if the defense continues to play that well and Nathan Orr gets back into the lineup, I think you'll see a different BC Lion team. But Masoli was just okay. You just can't turn it over.
Farhan, the big one this week, Evander Kane, polarizing figure. You've seen the reaction in the market. Never have the Canucks sent a fourth-round pick to a player and got this reaction. But your thoughts on Evander Kane in Vancouver?
Yeah, look, I'm of two minds on it. I get why the market is reacting this way, and another market wouldn't, and that's just because Vancouver pays close attention to Evander Kane, right? I mean, he was one of the better Vancouver Giants, involved in a Mem Cup team, high draft pick. There was a lot of attention around him, so everything that went wrong, Vancouver hockey fans were acutely aware, whether it was a guy like him or even Jake Virtanen, right? Like, you pay attention when it's that local guy you expect to do really well. So I get why the market's reacted the way they have. I don't know about whether or not Evander Kane has changed and all of a sudden he's an angel and this kind of thing, but I do think that Evander Kane cares about Evander Kane, which means getting another contract after this one is done.
Yeah.
Because I'm sure he'd like NHL money for a few more years in his life, right? So he's behaved himself well in Edmonton. So are the distractions of being back home in Vancouver going to get to Kane, or is the motivation of securing one more contract going to be the primary driver? And I think that is going to be the case. I think they'll get one solid year out of Evander Kane, and then we'll see what happens after that. And if the season goes south in a hurry, I'm curious to see what the reaction is there, as opposed to what he's been dealing with in Edmonton the last 2 years. But I just want to believe he can get through one more year motivated to get another contract.
Yeah, Farhan, we always knew that the Canucks needed to know about Thatcher Demko's contract demands by this draft. Well, the draft is tomorrow. Looks like it's positive. Looks like there could be a deal done. Your thoughts on Demko possibly signing?
Yeah, look, I think it would bring out the best in both Demko and Lankin. And Jim Rutherford talked earlier about how both sides need to share a level of risk in the Demko deal, right? Like, if he expects big term, I think that's naive. And, for the Canucks, they're not going to get him on a bargain basement, 1 year hometown discount, right? Because I do think there's a part of Thatcher Demko that wouldn't mind going elsewhere. So, and I'm not suggesting he's demanding a trade or anything like that, but I don't think it would kill him, if the Canucks moved him on either. So, I think if they're trending that way, I felt last year that the Canucks overreached on Kevin Lankinen. I thought he was a nice story, but he, wasn't necessarily elite for all year, and they paid him pretty early. I think Lankinen had the leverage when that deal was signed, so I was surprised it came in. I thought he was going to be kind of a 3x3 guy, so I don't know that he's ready to play 60 games. And I certainly don't think Thatcher Demko is ready to play 60 games. So if they can share the workload on similar contracts, I think it's the best chance for Lankinen to take the next step and succeed, and it's the best chance for Demko to stay healthy for another year. Although they don't have a lot of money to spend now with only $7 million left, and there is a thought that maybe moving off that Demko money in light of what they're spending on Kane would be a good thing if they want to acquire that center.
And what's your gut feeling when it comes to the 15th overall pick tomorrow? Canucks use it? Canucks trade it? You really don't know with Trader Jim.
I think it's burning a hole in their pocket, and I think they want to trade it.
Yes.
I think they would love to use it as part of a deal to get that top six center, but ultimately that pick is not as valued as it might be in another year, because we all know what people think of this draft, that it's not necessarily that high quality or that deep. So, and there's a lot of buyers. So I think there's a lot of teams, from my understanding, that are in the middle of that first round that are willing to part with their first round picks, right? So there's a lot of sellers, I should say. So it's a seller's market, and we'll see what happens there. But I think they're motivated. I think they want to move it, but it might not be easy to get what they want back.
You handled this like a pro. We had a technical hiccup there. I know you got to get to Lions practice. You might be running a bit behind.
I could blame Quinn, but I'm not going to. If it was Henderson, I would throw him under the bus.
Attaboy. So I appreciate that. But you handled it like a pro as always, Farhan. Thank you so much. We'll talk to you next week.
Thanks, guys. Have a good weekend. Remember, it starts tonight.
Monday, if you say so.